It's a Friday night off ice. So what do you do when there's no hockey for the first time since the playoffs began? You chat and you talk and you banter and you rant and you have teal tinted glasses. And you also need to mute yourself like me, Kevin. Jeez, there we go. Okay, false start. Where's my penalty flag? I'm actually going to go grab that just for this. Hang on. Penalty flag, false start, Kevin Lacey, number 22 on the offense. But anyway, yeah, so this is Teal Tinted Glasses. It's me and Ian tonight. This should be a lot of fun. We're just kind of wing this show. Of course, the Sharks and St. Louis Blues have moved on to the conference finals, the Western Conference Finals. And then last night, the Eastern Conference Finals began with Boston and Carolina, and more officiating controversy, I guess, from the Dougie Hamilton hit. I didn't see it, but like I said, we're just winging this show. So send your thoughts and your comments in on the Google chat, and we'll be paying attention to them. So, Ian, how you doing tonight?
Fantastic. Happy to be back on the air. We had to go on hiatus last week, which, always kind of sucks because we like to try and keep this regular weekly thing. But I'm glad to be here. I'm glad that we have more Sharks hockey to talk about. Not that I was ever really doubting it, but you never know at this point, right? Things happen.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, I felt very confident in the series against Colorado, and it was almost the most confident I've been about a series since the Sharks last played the Blues in 2016, where I was like, oh, we're winning in 6. Now, this time the Sharks did not win in 6. They won in 7, and it got a little under my skin, to be honest, because I really felt that the Sharks could have handled this a lot quicker than they did, but still a good series win. And for me, Ian, it was nice to just watch hockey, like hockey being played and not just thuggery like the Vegas series. So I'm sure we'll get back to that here in the St. Louis series, but it was nice to see some skill being performed out there.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was an interesting series because when it started, there really wasn't a whole lot of hate there, in my opinion. Even on Twitter, I didn't really see much hate back and forth. Not like the Vegas. Like the Vegas series was this just bloodbath everywhere you looked. Like anywhere that there was, it was either a bloodbath on the ice, it was a bloodbath in social media. Like there is no prisoners taken. Now, obviously, as the longer a series goes, the hate it kind of does kick up a little bit. But it was nice. It was kind of peaceful, and I don't think we're going to get that this next round.
Oh, definitely not, man. I mean, the Sharks and the Blues have such a long history, and these are two teams that have still not won the Stanley Cup. I mean, we said that 3 years ago. The
Right.
Blues now, I've lost count at this point, but the Blues are going on 40-something years. And then, of course, the Sharks are on their 28th year, sorry. And the Blues, like I mentioned in an article that I need to really, I guess, rehash at this point.
Mm-hmm.
The only time the Blues ever made it to the Cup Finals was in their first and second seasons, and they were swept both times. So the fact that the Sharks beat them in 2016 just makes them even more hungrier to win this time around. So it's going to be interesting. Yeah.
Okay, but before we get to St. Louis, we should probably talk about the series that just happened. I think, obviously the good is they won. But I'm with you. I felt like that series, these things, it's a track meet, and you really need to be efficient in the first couple of rounds. And I really felt like the Sharks kind of played with their food here a little bit. I don't know. I don't want to come off like I'm trying to disrespect the Colorado Avalanche, because I think you look at, they won games that they deserve to win. I just feel like the Sharks should have taken care of this in a quicker fashion.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, game 1, which I was at, the Sharks, after the first period, weathering the storm, the first period, Sharks controlled that game, and probably, to me, their best, I guess you could say, all-around game. of the series. And game 2, they started off even better, to be honest, starting off game 2, and they let it slip. And then, back and forth the whole series. But it was like, man, if the Sharks could have had a little more consistency, that could have been over in 5. I mean, probably 6, but it could have been over in 5 and almost should have been over in 5.
Yeah. And again, that's not trying to take a swing at Colorado, because I just
definitely not.
I'm not trying to disrespect the Colorado Avalanche in any way, shape, or form here. I just we've seen. I just feel like the Sharks didn't execute as well as they should have, and I guess this is the problem, right? Is that for the first half of the Vegas series, it was all about how Martin Jones couldn't stop a beach ball, and now it's like Martin Jones is stopping pucks, but now the offense has kind of gone cold, and it's just they can't. Can they just get it together for 2 more rounds? Just get it all together.
Yeah, man. Hey, but great for Martin Jones to step up. And you played goalie there for a while, right? Mm-hmm. Now, have you seen a goalie just turn it on in the blink of an eye the way that Martin Jones has in the last 10 games? Because to me, it's like, what happened that he just suddenly... I mean, it's not like he wasn't trying before to me,
Yeah.
But I don't think the defense has played that. I think Vlasic and Braun have taken a huge step forward than they played in the regular season. I really do think that. But collectively, I don't think the defense has been that much better.
No.
So how has Jones just been like, bam, now I found it?
Yeah. I wish I could explain it, because I mean, obviously, I'm really glad that he's turned it on. But for the season, I mean, it's not just he had a really rough season, period. I mean, so for him to just be able to kind of block that out, and because I don't know, like for me, if I had a season like that, I'm sure I would be a mess come the playoffs, just an absolute mess. I don't know where I'd find my confidence at that point. Going with the stretches that he had. And obviously we hope that it continues, but yeah, I wish I could explain it other than goalies are voodoo, but that's my only real answer. I wish I had something where I could say, this is what he's done better, but he's just, maybe he's definitely doing a lot of the little things better than he was before. And I think that was a big problem, little things, just being a little bit off his angle, a little bit out of position. A lot of the, and then trying to kind of, Martin Jones kind of plays that, he's a good positional goalie. When he's only got his positioning on, he's really good, but he tried being a little more, athletic, trying to make the kind of like the Nabby circus save.
Yeah. I have always said that when Martin Jones is off his game, when he's trying to be a mobile goalie.
Right. He needs to be, his bread and butter is strong positional play, blocking off angles, and then, not spitting out rebounds, where and that's I think that's the book on Martin Jones, and you can get him moving around, or sometimes not even moving around, unfortunately, because he just doesn't pick up his angle properly. It kind of just blows up on him. And we saw that a lot this season. But in the last little bit, you've definitely seen, just better little technical things that he's doing better right now. And you got to hope that he continues it.
Yeah, for sure. I really hope that he has another strong series here against St. Louis, just because I don't think, I've defended Martin Jones a lot, even throughout this season, I've defended him a lot, because I think the defense should have been so much better than they have been. And I do play defense, or at least I did till I got suspended. But so I feel like, even though I'm not a pro, I know tendencies. Right. And I just saw all kinds of poor tendencies from the Sharks defensively, where it wasn't a fair shake for Jones, but at the same time, he did need to be better. Yeah. So where I'm going with that is I hope he has another stellar series, because I don't think I can handle hearing the Sharks fan base go from burn him at the stake to he should win the Conn Smythe to
I know.
death to Martin Jones all over again. Like, I just hope that no matter what happens, I hope Jones has a strong series. And
I know. I think the one thing that I saw that it kind of made me a little crazy was this on side. It's just like, it's like, oh, he's elite now. I'm like, oh God, not this.
Yeah. Well, hey, but you know what's awesome for him, though, is he's the 8th goalie in NHL history to have won his first 3 Game 7s in his career. So I think that's pretty remarkable.
That is.
I said it on Teal Town USA recently that, and I'm sure we'll get predictions later, but I feel like if the Sharks win the series or win the Stanley Cup, I feel like their destiny is to do it in 7 games in all 4 rounds and completely torture us. Like, to become the first team in NHL history to play 28 games in a playoff. And they have to win. Like, can you imagine playing 28 games and losing? Like,
I might, yeah. This team drives me crazy because, like, during the Vegas series, like, I was ready to leave them dead on the side of the road. So when things went to Game 7, I'm like, how dare you pull me back in? Like, how dare you? When it got pushed to 7, because I was confident, but there was this, there was a part of me that, like, what if this is over? Like, you're gonna have to do a podcast after this, and you're gonna be really angry at them. And I just,
Well, I was of the feeling there in the Vegas series when the Sharks went down 3-1, and I even said it on this show. And if you didn't see that show, please subscribe, folks, and get the little ring-a-dingy bell so you know when our next show will be. But I did say on this show, maybe going down 3-1 is what the Sharks need to push forward. Like, maybe an epic comeback like at the time it could be is what would help propel them throughout the playoffs. So far, that's happened.
Oh, good. Yeah. I mean, I'm not complaining. Like, when the Sharks do good, it's good, as a wise Ian always says. When the Sharks do good
things. Pucks in deep.
Yeah,
all that.
Pucks in deep. When the Sharks do good, it's good. All right.
But
so go ahead.
I was just to say, hats off to Colorado, though. Like, I know Keith Jones took some flack, and probably rightfully so, for saying this on air in the way that he did. But he said, congratulations to the Sharks for beating Colorado. It won't happen next year. And It seemed a little brash, but I think his point was well-founded in that Colorado is going to be a total beast. I mean, with that kind of blue line, I think the Sharks did a great job of defending the blue line. I know I've been saying their defense has been really inconsistent and needs to collectively be better. However, their forwards, back checking and forechecking on that blue line for Colorado was outstanding. And I think that's where we won the series. So, but next year, wow, Colorado really will be, when they get a couple more forwards.
But do you count on Philip Grubauer to be the guy again next year? Because I think that there's some goaltending performances that we've gotten this year that I'm not confident are going to carry over. Like, Robin Leonard has a way above career average year. Like, for him, I kind of wonder if is Colorado finally set in goal?
That's awesome question. For Robin Leonard with the Islanders, yeah, man. I mean, it's been one good year. He had a good pedigree coming into the NHL, but then he really never did much.
Mm-hmm. He was healthy all year too, and that's helpful.
What's that?
I said he was healthy too, and that's helpful.
Yeah. Oh, that's a huge thing. And mentally healthy, of course. That's been well documented. And I think Robin Leonard probably deserves the Masterton this year. I mean, with everything that he's overcome. But
don't let Mr. Brody Brazil hear you say that.
Nah.
He will eject you from the
But as far as Grubauer goes, though, coming into the playoffs, I was like, Grubauer or whatever. But watching Colorado in this playoffs, I feel like he has taken the next step. I mean, he was very good for Washington, and
he was.
I think even though he won in a backup role last year, won the Stanley Cup in a backup role, you're able to take that and apply it to, the next step of your career. And I think Grubauer did that for Colorado this year once he finally took the reins as a starter. So I would Go ahead.
Just to go back to that, I mean, last season, Grubauer started the playoffs for Colorado because they completely lost faith in Braden Holtby. Now, obviously, we know how that ended, but I mean, it just goes to show how much faith that even the Capitals had in Grubauer going into the playoffs last year.
Yeah, I think your point is very justified, but going on hunches and whatnot, I actually think Grubauer is going to be all right. I think Colorado is going to be fine. I'm curious to know what they're going to do behind him next year, but
I don't know. I think that, I don't know. I mean, we all know what potential apocalypse is waiting for the Sharks at the end of the season, which is why they really need to win. But man, Colorado, I mean, this is a team to me, like, yeah, they're better, but that Central Division isn't getting any easier either.
Oh man. I mean, with St. Louis, obviously now conference finals, Dallas pushed them to the brink, and man, that was a great series, St. Louis and Dallas. And now Colorado is certainly on the rise. Chicago was falling, but I think they've righted the ship with a couple of the moves that they made there in the second half of the season, and they pushed strong for a playoff spot. Winnipeg should be better. I guess there's a little concern there, but they should be better. And Nashville, I still think will be very competitive next year. I mean, I picked them to win the cup this year, so they should be, they're fine. And I'm sure I'm missing another team. Who else is there? But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting because I think like the Colorado Avalanche are getting better, but they're going to be in a tough division because again, we've seen the Blues. We knew the Blues were better than they were the first half of the season.
Yeah.
Okay, Winnipeg and Nashville both go up first round, but these are teams that are going to make it again. Like I can't see them massively falling off. Minnesota, I never know what.
Oh, Minnesota, that's the team.
I don't know what to make of Minnesota. I never do, and yet somehow they're always kind of just hanging around. So.
This might be a good time for Minnesota to fall to the basement of that division, though, and restock and whatnot, and then just in time for Arizona to join the Central Division in a couple of years too. So
right, because we know that's going to happen. I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. So let's look forward now. We're going to look at the St. Louis series. Obviously, it hasn't started yet. Starts tomorrow. Mediocre soda. Yeah, exactly.
Mediocre soda
in the chat. Yep.
Jerry, that is fantastic.
That is amazing. Because I never know what. Like I think Minnesota. I know we make fun of Ottawa because they're a team, but Minnesota, they're a team because they're kind of just there. I mean, Ottawa's a bad team. Minnesota's just there. They're not bad. They're not good. They're just there. I've always felt that way about Minnesota.
Yeah. I mean, I think I picked them to be this year. I really, really want to go back and rewatch our season preview episode.
Oh God.
I really do. Because
I want to see how wrong I
think. Yeah, but I think we all discussed Dallas possibly pushing ahead and surprising some people, and I think they succeeded at that. And mediocre soda was exactly that. So
it was exactly that. I think it was. There was definitely. I'm sure we hit some interesting things, and I'm sure we were like really dumb on some things too.
Felix says Minnesota. That's good too.
That's also like very good. Very good. I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat, guys. Don't worry. Try to keep an eye on the chat. Trying to keep the audio going because dead air, bad things. There's some questions in the chat that I have kind of been jotting down here, so I'm gonna circle back to them later.
Cool. But yeah, St. Louis.
I mean, conference finals, deja vu. Once upon a time, we played the St. Louis Blues and a conference final, and then we went and lost to Pittsburgh in the Stanley Cup final. I don't remember that part so much, but I do remember beating the Blues. These are both pretty different teams than the ones that faced off then, though. I think it's fair to say. Like, I try not to look at that series to draw too many parallels because I think that there's, there's a lot of pieces that are the same, but there's a lot of pieces that are also very different. Or people in different roles and whatnot. So I I mean, where's the advantage Sharks in your mind? Advantage Sharks going into this series.
I think advantage is the overall skill set, the overall talent. I think I know there's a lot to be made about the goaltending in this upcoming series with Jordan Binnington, the hot goalie who's only been hot for 5 months. I mean, how hot is it at that point? I'd say just proven at this point, at least proven for this year. I mean, you've got Martin Jones, you got a proven playoff performer here, first 4 games aside. So, I mean, I think that's an advantage. I actually think the defenses are a wash. I really do. I know I was on the panel there with the Let's Go Blues radio guys last evening with Teal Tinted USA, and they were talking about how they had their guys like Parayko. I can't think of, all of a sudden I'm drawing blanks on their defense, but Parayko and Edmondson, Edmondson's kind of like our Dylan, and Parayko's kind of like their Burns. And then you've got Pietrangelo and Vince Dunn, who are very good and very bad. And that's kind of Erik Karlsson. So, I mean, I guess you say, hey, we've got Vlasic and Braun there as the rest, because certainly Joakim Ryan's not getting any playing time this year. But and I think Vlasic and Braun have been fantastic in the playoffs. But the Blues overall, I think they can handle. I mean, I think they can match up well with the Sharks defensively. So to me, it's between the goaltending and between which offense shows up.
I mean, you look at this thing. I'm just looking at the potential pairs here. I'm seeing Edmondson and Pietrangelo. I mean, that's a decent pair. Like, I'm not gonna, overly crap on that. And then, Colton Parayko's kind of carry around the anchor. That's Jay Bouwmeester, who I've never really been a big fan of.
Man, I forgot he was even there.
But I really like Colton Parayko. Like, I've always liked him. A good young defenseman. And Vince Dunn, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know a ton about. And Carl Gunnarsson, he's been around for a while. Dependable bottom 6 guy or bottom pair guy. But yeah, I agree. I look at that and I feel like on defense, I think that they can, and this is a big defense score too. Like these guys can move some bodies around. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Sharks handle that, because I think, the last 2 series, it's been more trying to keep up speed wise. Right. And now it's going to be, now that I think that they're going to get a little more punished in the corners than maybe they were used to against. I mean, obviously look at Vegas and Color have their guys that can go and kill you in the corner. It's Zadorov, but I like all of these guys can kill you in the corner. They can all break you down. And it's going to be interesting to see how the Sharks handle that, because I think that when you look at how the Sharks, got off their game a little bit, I don't think, when I look at this team, I don't really see like a pest per se, other than maybe like David Perron can be kind of a pain in the neck, but they don't really have, that pest. But I wonder if
their pest is on the bench. His name is Steve Ott. He's assistant coach.
Oh God. So I don't really, I'm not too worried about them getting drawn into like stupidity like they were, like when, they did really well in the Vegas series after they just started ignoring Ryan Reeves. Ryan Reeves became no longer an issue. Like when it was no longer the story, like it was amazing how the Sharks turned and then we weren't hearing nothing about Reeves. So I'm concerned that when you still, when you have your guys that can bang on the Sharks, I just, you don't want them to take stupid penalties because they're tired of getting hit. And that's my concern. Like, you don't always need to have like a pest to kind of annoy people. You can just start hitting people and hitting people and hitting people. And then eventually, you get tired of being hit, and then you start swinging your stick a little bit more. And I think that worries me for the Sharks, especially in the offensive zone.
Yeah. I was trying to keep up with the chat, but Yeah, sorry about that,
No,
Ian. I was.
Vince G says St. Louis versus San Jose, Spider-Man pointing at each other meme. It's not far off.
No, yeah, I think that's a good call. I mentioned last evening, I think a big key to this series is the Sharks' health.
Yeah.
Particularly on the forward end, but I mean, you've got Erik Karlsson playing with, I'm sure his groin is still torn. I'm sure it didn't heal in 6 weeks. So, I mean, he's got that. He did not practice today, from what I recall, Curtis Pashelka tweeting out. And then Burns, I know, had a foot injury. I think he's recovered from that. I hope he is. But I mean, look at the forwards. Pavelski obviously injured. Evander Kane, I'm pretty sure, has a shoulder injury.
He better be injured because, man, he's been disappointing so far.
Yeah, and I mean, you're right. He'd better be injured at this point because, I mean, he's drawn so much heat from the Sharks fan base. And I think that's pretty unfair when it's the playoffs because you'll see guys go down or whatnot. I think Evander Kane's been a complete beast on the penalty kill. I think he's been the best penalty killer for the Sharks in the playoffs. But the thing of it is, penalty killing is all about skating and positioning.
Right.
And he's been able to do that, which is why I don't think it's a lower body injury. But his physical game's completely gone, and his puck handling is a non-factor. So I think he's got to have a shoulder injury.
Shoulder would make a lot of sense. I mean, we saw how badly, a guy that has just all the go-go juice, Jonas Donskoi, how he, like the one thing about Jonas Donskoi that I always appreciate is he can go. Yeah. He may not always go and do great things, but he can go. And we saw how hampered he was when he, like, just how much go he didn't have without his shoulder. So I'd be interested to see, I feel like Evander Kane, like you never want to hope someone's injured, obviously, but at least
yeah. It's just like I hope he's bleeding so that we get a 4-minute power play.
Like it sounds like a horrible thing to say, but I would really like to see, we need to see more out of him. If he's not injured, man, we need to see more out of him, period.
Yeah.
And there's all there is to it. I mean, if he's hurt, especially if he's nursing a shoulder or something, I mean, then I can be a little more forgiving, but definitely not what I thought we would be getting the playoffs, especially after last year. He was crazy last year. And even start of the Vegas series, I thought he was pretty good, but since then,
that's where I take a bit of offense when they're saying Kane's not a playoff performer. Well, until last round he was. So, but I know it's the "what have you done for me lately" thing.
Oh, it always is.
Yeah, but I think that with Kane, if Kane truly is injured, that means that Timo Meier's going to step up, and he's another guy who got injured in Game 82 of the season with the wrist injury, and I think he's doing all right. I mean, he looked fine in the Vegas series, but I think he kind of fell off in the Colorado series a bit. And against the big bruising defense that St. Louis has, I think Meier's going to have to be relied on to push back to help guys like Donskoi, like Pavelski, like Couture, not get brutalized in the series.
No, I completely agree. Jerry asks a great question. I'm just going to hit this one right off the hop. Do you think, absent any injuries, that PDB plays Haley if he perceives a more physical series? I think Haley plays regardless. I don't think Haley's going anywhere for the whole 5 minutes he plays, 4 minutes. Haley only plays the 5 minutes, but I still feel like it's an effective 5 minutes. I mean, obviously there's the whole, Haley will defend anyone kind of thing, but I still think that he's a decent forechecker. I mean, you can't rely on him to be an offensive presence out there, but that's not the role that he's asked to bring out there. Yeah, I mean, I can look at my issue is less with Haley right now. I mean, look at, he's gonna play. I'm tired of kicking around Michael Haley. Like it is what it is, right? Do I like it from the perspective that Peter DeBoer is playing guys for, he's shortened his bench arbitrarily for, you've had 2 7-game series, and he's just going to continue playing these guys that he doesn't trust to play any significant minutes. Yeah. That's the part that bothers me. Yeah. It's not so much Michael Haley himself doesn't bother me. He's going out there. He's going to do what he can do because that's what, they've put him in a position to do it. Am I angry that Doug Wilson brought him back knowing that Peter DeBoer couldn't help himself? Absolutely. Am I angry that, other guys are playing more minutes to compensate for the 4 minutes that Haley's playing a night? Yeah. But the same argument could be made for a player that I like in Joakim Ryan. So I don't know. I'm done kicking Haley around. I mean, it's tired. It's been done. Everyone knows how I feel about Michael Haley. I don't feel like I need to continuously just rip him a new one every show.
Yeah. I think that the other thing is, again, who are you going to put him in over? Or put in over him? And yeah, okay, Lucas Radil, for example. But Lucas Radil, I feel like when he's got 5 minutes, has not been an effective player. And if you give him 11 minutes, I think Radil could have some effectiveness in a game. But I think having the limited minutes suits Haley better, and I think that's why he ends up in the lineup.
Yeah, the problem is that look, I understand this is a team going to the conference finals, and maybe this makes me sound completely ridiculous, but the problem with this, Peter DeBoer is a problem with this team. Peter DeBoer holds back this team. It's really hard to do this because I understand we're going to the conference finals, but I think that, look at every team's flawed. And the Sharks' flaws are behind its bench significantly.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. And I feel like, I know some people in Sharks media will defend Peter DeBoer to the death, and that's great. I feel like he holds this team back. I feel like the team succeeds in spite of Peter DeBoer, not because of Peter DeBoer.
Yeah.
And that's my opinion.
And I agree with you. I've been on this. How many years have we been doing this show? Yeah. We've been doing this show the whole time DeBoer has been coach, and yep. We always saying that too. So sorry, Coach DeBoer, but thank you for getting us here this far again. Yeah, I guess
great.
I still think it's the roster, like you said, but
yeah.
And actually, coaching, to me, based on what you said, there's an advantage for St. Louis right there. Craig Berube's done a great job for that. I know someone mentioned Craig Berube in the chat earlier. I think it was Skylar asking about a contract extension. Well, that's a no-brainer to me. The Blues would be stupid to let Berube walk to Edmonton next year.
Yeah, Jack Adams, absolutely.
Yeah, but Berube, it's kind of interesting to me that last year, was it last year when Ken Hitchcock was fired for Mike Yeo?
Yes.
I think so. I think it was last year. Maybe it was the year before, but I feel like it was. But even at that time when Ken Hitchcock was still coaching the Blues, there was talk about Craig Berube being the next head coach with the Blues. And then they brought Mike Yeo in, and Berube got that extra year in the AHL. And it's kind of funny to me how, we talk about ripening players in the AHL, like giving them the extra year. The way Berube has coached the Blues this year, I feel like that extra year really did make a difference, because for when he was a coach of, was it the Flyers? He was the head coach.
Yeah.
They started off well under him, and then it just fell off the rails for them, and that's why he got fired. And he basically built himself up into a position where the Blues had no choice but to bring him in from Chicago of the AHL, and he's been lights out for them. They've really thrived under him versus the start of the year where the players were fighting each other on the bench under Mike Yeo, and literally fighting each other in practice.
Yeah. Four Paws has a great question here. Do you think Robinson being with Larry Robinson, obviously being with the Blues organization, do you think that gives them a boost because he knows a lot about our veteran players? I don't know if that gives them a huge boost. I understand that Larry Robinson's the Hall of Famer, but I don't know how much credit I give Larry Robinson for anything on the Sharks, to be completely honest. Like, for how long he was there, what did he do? Who is better? Maybe Vlasic? But really, other than that, I thought Burns improved under Bugner more than any time under Larry Robinson.
Was Robinson coaching? I thought he was an associate coach.
He was an associate coach, but he's also Hall of Fame defenseman. So
I do think the power play improved under Larry Robinson.
Yes.
But then when DeBoer came in, I felt like DeBoer took over the power play and it got a little more inconsistent, and then Robinson left. I do think that just from a respect level and having won a Stanley Cup. Now, I think that winning a Stanley Cup 20 years ago versus 2 years ago, for example, I think, look at Barry Melrose. Barry Melrose took the Kings to the Stanley Cup final, and then Tampa brought him in and fired him after 16 games because he didn't know how to coach in that current era.
Right.
And I'm not saying that's what it is with Robinson, but I do think it was smart of the Blues to at least bring him in and rely on his expertise, because it's more of a back office role, I think, for him.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned. I mean, I think that, look at coaches these days. Like, I understand like Larry Robinson might have some personal experience with some more players, but really, I mean, there's so much tape on all these guys. I don't know how much that extra insight's really going to add when you can watch anything these guys do in 6 different angles in slow-mo. And like, I think any NHL coach worth his salt can probably get as much information as they need from the tape. And obviously, like, look at all these players know each other. So, I mean, there's that too. I don't know if it's a significant advantage. Is it an advantage? It could be. I just don't think it's as significant as it may have been, say, 20 years ago when, replay wasn't such a, when there wasn't every game on television and stuff like that, like, I think that, I think back in those days, maybe, but I think now I don't feel like that advantage would be significant.
Yeah.
The fact that you can watch any hockey game at any time, anywhere.
Great question, though, for a pause.
Yeah.
I like where you were thinking on that, because I didn't even think of the Robinson angle. I like that. So
yeah, I like that. I think so. One thing, so Charlie, at X Floral Green on the Twitter machine, he's very high on our depth compared to the Blues depth. He said, objectively, how can people think the Blues depth even somewhat compares to San Jose's depth? I'll elaborate further. If San Jose can shut down St. Louis's top couple of producers, there's not much left for them. On the flip side, St. Louis shuts down Burns, Pavelski, and Couture. San Jose still has Hurdle, Meyer, Thornton, LeBanc. Who would St. Louis rely on? Bozak, Maroon, Perron. I think that, I like the Sharks' depth. I don't know how healthy that depth is. I don't think it's wildly. I don't think St. Louis's depth is significantly worse. Like, I don't feel like there's a big chasm between these teams.
And it's the playoffs, and that's where lesser players rise, like Jonas Donskoy in the Cup Finals against Pittsburgh, for example.
Yeah, I mean, I like Tom. Like, I like Bozak. I think Bozak's a great center, and I think the fact that you can afford to slot him as your third line center, that's silly. When like the St. Louis team, like, I look at it, right? I mean, look at Jaden Schwartz can put pucks in the net. Braden Shen, he's a good setup guy. Obviously, I don't think you get as much out of Shen as you'd probably wanted out of your first line center, but he can pass the puck to Tarasenko, and Tarasenko can make a lot of goalies look stupid. Ryan O'Reilly's a lot of points. Ryan O'Reilly's a player that I really, really like. David Perron's a player that I don't like, but I accept that he's a good hockey player. I don't know a ton about Sammy Blaze, who would play.
Sammy Blaze, that's your scrappy guy right there.
So, I mean, he's a guy. But, I mean, this third line of Maroon, Bozak, and Robert Thomas. Robert Thomas is really good. Robert Thomas is really good. Robert Thomas is going to be he is going to be up there with Tarasenko as when you talk about St. Louis Blues players. Like, his name's going to be up there with Tarasenko at some point.
And just real quick, I never saw that coming. I mean, I was dead wrong about him on our draft show. I mean, Robert Thomas has been the real deal. And the play that he made for the series-winning goal in double OT, just driving the net off that faceoff, was just like, wow. What a move.
And maybe, their fourth line, that's a wash, in my opinion. Like, the fourth line's a wash.
Well, I'd give the Blues the advantage of the fourth line in that their fourth line actually plays.
Right, but I mean, skill-wise, it's a wash. Like,
Oh yeah. No, I know.
Put that line out against any of the Sharks' forward lines, and they're going to get worked, in my opinion.
Yeah. Kurt Price had mentioned he thinks Ryan O'Reilly's injured. So at least there's one. If you want to look at like Kane versus O'Reilly, there's a wash. If that's true. Again, this is all speculative because we have no information. It's the playoffs. Everybody has the flu.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and O'Reilly might be. It'll be interesting to see how Peter DeBoer deploys his lines to match up on tomorrow night. It'll be interesting to see because I mean, obviously, when last change obviously helps these things. I like the Sharks in this series. I'm not going to say I don't like the Sharks in this series. I just don't think that there's this huge chasm between the Sharks and the Blues that I think some people would like to think there is. I don't know.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I go back to Jordan Binnington in that. Sure, it's his first year in the playoffs and he's unproven, but he also hasn't proven that he can lose in the playoffs. All he's done is 1-2. He's 2-0 all time in the playoffs in the NHL. Like his AHL numbers have always been good. The reason he fell down the depth chart with the Blues was because they had a couple of just premier prospect goalies in their system, and he still overcame that. Took over the reins in January and never let it go because Jake Allen's a black hole in net. So I mean, Jordan Binnington, like I just said, he hasn't proven himself to lose, and I always liked this guy. So, and I did he win a Memorial Cup too?
Oh, Binnington! I'm trying to remember where Binnington played.
Yeah, see, I don't remember, but I think, especially the Dallas series, like the Calgary series. All right, he won a round, whatever. Calgary lost, as I should have predicted and didn't for some reason. Oh wait, that was the Colorado series. My bad. Winnipeg. He beat Winnipeg, but he stood on his head, if I'm not mistaken, in the final game against Winnipeg. That was game 5. I thought he played great against Winnipeg. And then, but this Dallas series, I thought the Blues did not win that series if Jake Allen was in net. Like the goaltending needed to be there, and it was there. Like so.
Yeah, and that's the thing with the. And that's the problem that I have with Binnington. And this is the concern, right? Because this is historically the kind of goalie that just completely derails the Sharks in the playoffs. This is the Mika Kiprasov.
Yeah.
Like this is the kind of goalie that completely. This is the Antti Niemi. This is the Mika Kiprasov. This out of nowhere goalie that's going to come in and stomp us and make me cry. That's my concern with him.
Great call. Absolutely. I mean,
this is the other reason I know Ben Bishop has done some horrible things to the Sharks, but I would still take that because they're, it's a completely different animal. Like regular season Pekka Rinne, stone cold shark killer, but in the playoffs, not so much. This element scares me because this just reminds me of like series where, goalies that came out of nowhere, just made the Sharks look stupid.
Oh, for pause confirmed. Yes, Jordan Binnington won the Memorial Cup in 2011. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Since you mentioned that you are confident about the Sharks in this series, I'm glad we were able to get back to this. So if the Sharks had played St. Louis in the second round after the Vegas series, would you be less confident about that? Or do you think that because the Colorado series was just a straight hockey series, not very physical, allowed the Sharks to kind of recuperate from the Vegas series on the fly, do you think the Sharks are stronger now going into the conference finals against them than if they'd played them in round 2?
I think that I would have favored the Sharks against St. Louis in round 2. I would have expected it to be a longer series, whereas I thought I had the Sharks beating the Avalanche in 5.
Okay.
And I would have probably had that in 6 or 7.
Okay.
I think that's probably the only difference. I mean, after that, the way that the Sharks came back in that Vegas series, hell, they could, as far as I was concerned at that point, they could do anything. Now obviously they've come, my expectations have come back to earth a little bit here. I still think like I still have like in my second chance bracket, because I'm terrible at my first chance bracket.
Yeah, you and 99.5% of the field.
I have the I have the Sharks playing the Bruins in the Cup final, and I had the Blues beating the Stars, so I'm sticking with it.
Nice. Well, my bracket's not busted, but I really wanted to put the Sharks and Bruins, and I just decided, you know what? The Bruins didn't impress me against Toronto. Sharks and Islanders. Why not?
Oh, man. Damn.
Is there a third chance bracket? At least I picked the Sharks over the Islanders, so the Sharks are still alive.
Hey, there you go. Yeah, like, I don't know. I look at this. I don't think the chasm's deep. I think this is going to be a good matchup. I like the Sharks' chances here, though. But they have to figure out Binnington. They have to figure him out quick, because this is not a series where they can, put up a goose egg for 2 games and then somehow try and fight their way back in it.
Yeah, good call.
Like they need to figure out Binnington, and they need to figure him out quick. I think that's going to be the key to the entire series, is how quick they figure out Binnington. Because if they can't, they are done. Period. And I hate saying that, but that's just the way it is.
And that's my concern, is the inconsistency of the team, especially in the defensive zone. I mean, we saw this last series that Martin Jones was able to overcome a lot of turnovers in the defensive zone.
Yeah.
Erik Karlsson, who, he's injured. I'm going to give that to him, but he does still need to step up. I mean, the mental mistakes that he's been making, that should not happen. Brent Burns, I thought he played his best hockey. Huh?
I said it's Brent Burns.
Brent Burns, it's funny because all of his points happened there or most of his points happened in the first half of that series, where I actually thought he played his worst hockey of the playoffs. I thought he actually got better as his points declined in the series, but he was a turnover machine in the first 3 games against Colorado.
I think, and that's the problem with Brent Burns, right? Like he's such a high risk, high reward guy, and that's the problem. Is if he's putting up points, it's generally because he's taking those risks, and that's what they pay him for. But at the same time, it's like you'd like to see a little more defensive acumen. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like all those points are really nice too. Like he could. Yeah. I don't think he wins the Norris, but he could, and we could all just shake our heads and be like, I guess.
And Drew Doughty will like run up on stage and pull a Kanye and be like, "I'm gonna let you finish, but this should have never happened."
I mean, I think it's Giordano's, but.
I think so too. I think that'd be robbery if Giordano doesn't win. But hey, according to a lot of fans on Twitter, the Sharks are really good at robbing their.
That's true. We are the worst.
For being one of the most penalized teams in the entire playoffs this year, the Sharks have been absolutely getting all the calls in our favor. Apparently, so.
What's funny, because like I'm used to like being very angry and yelling at Sharks fans over stupid conspiracy theories, and it's enjoyable that I just get to kind of sit back and laugh now, because it's for once it's not us making all these silly conspiracy theories. It's everyone else thinking that like this is Joe's paved ride to the Stanley Cup, after they suspended him for a game. And
yeah.
It's Jumbo's. I mean, look, would I love to see Jumbo hoist the cup? Yeah, absolutely. Do I think that there's any outside factors at play to get him there? No, obviously not. I think that, I don't know, it's hockey.
And Jeff Merrick has been right in that train about Joe Thornton needs to win the cup in Boston.
See, I don't even care. We'll come back to this. We'll come back to this. I want to get through some of these questions here, and then we can talk about the other series, and then we can pretend that the Sharks move on, and we can talk about potential Stanley Cup matchups. But first, okay, so Lisa Henderson asked, how will the Sharks forwards manage the Blues' large defensive core? I think I think we kind of touched on this a little already. I think that they got to be prepared to be punished a little bit, but they just need to move the puck efficiently. I think the best thing to do when you got guys running you nonstop is you got to move the puck. And, when they take themselves out of the play to run you over, hopefully you can move the puck quick enough. There's a guy open because someone took themselves out of the play, and then you got to solve Jordan Binnington. That's what I think they have to do. Will they do that? I don't know. But I think that would be the logical way to approach that, Kevin.
Yeah, and I don't think that would be a bad thing for the Sharks to play in a little more physical series than the Colorado series. I think it would be bad if they had another Vegas style series again on the taxation on their bodies, because I think the Sharks did look a little tired the first couple of games.
Yeah.
At least towards the end of games at the beginning of the Colorado series. But a guy like Hurdle, I think, is a little more engaged when he is taking to the body. Even if he's getting hit in the boards, I think he becomes more engaged. I definitely think Joe Thornton becomes more engaged the more physical the game is. Meyer, again, I think he's all right. I hope so.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly a more physical player on the team. So I think that would actually favor to the Sharks. So,
yeah. Do you think Peter DeBoer will consider changing his PP scheme? No. To have Burns near the left faceoff circle firing one-timers with Carlson at the point. The Sharks power play is a point of endless frustration, and it hasn't changed yet. So I have no faith in it changing now.
I haven't been as disappointed in the power play as some people are. I see the setups that they're going with, and I think it's fine. It's one of those things that it's when they can't break into the zone, that's their problem. But I think once they get set up in the zone, I think the Sharks, the way they've got this weird umbrella. It's almost like an inverted umbrella. And I kind of like it, but it's all a matter of getting in the offensive zone to make it happen in the first place.
Yeah, I think, look, you got to remember, like, I know a lot of people would just wish that the Sharks would just enter the zone and whip pucks at the net. And I get that. But at the same time, it's like your NHL goalie is going to stop pucks from the blue line without proper positioning every time.
Yeah.
At least they should, especially if they're playing in the conference final. But do I think that the Sharks do pass up some grade A opportunities? Yeah, they do. But they're not alone.
Yeah.
Lots of teams pass up, because they're trying to play their system. I'm not saying the Sharks power play system is good. I think it's okay. I think when it's on, it does look good. But I think at the time when it's not, it looks like they are like any team. They're passing up good opportunities for that extra pass, trying to look too pretty. These are all criticisms I think you could fling at a lot of power plays in the league.
I was going to say St. Louis, and I don't have the stats, but as far as I'm aware, St. Louis has had a far more anemic power play than the Sharks have.
Right.
So I know that the Blues guys, Kurt Price and Jeff Ponder and Bill Day, they can't stand how the Blues power play has been so far. So
there you have it. And definitely listen, go back and check out that interview over on Teal Town, because those guys are always like, I love those guys at Let's Go Blues Radio.
Yeah,
they're fantastic, and they're always like I will listen to them even if I don't care who they're playing or whatever, just because I think that they have some really good insights, and they have an enjoyable show in my opinion. So definitely go check out that interview on Teal Town that Kevin was on with them, because they'll give you some great insight into the Blues, and they'll do it.
And trust me, we talked a lot about the Blues last night.
Yeah, but I mean, they will give you honest insights. Like they're not just going to give you nonstop homer take.
Yeah,
like they will give you some decent stuff to chew on about their team, and it's like we can talk about the Sharks because we know the Sharks. I mean, they know their team. So it's always good to have that extra perspective. Joshua Zalk asks do we feel that Erik Karlsson will perform better this upcoming series since the Blues are not a fast team, or will his defensive deficiencies still linger? I don't think Karlsson's healthy. I think that's going to have more to do with his play than anything with the other team. I think that the Blues being a bigger, I don't want to say that. I don't think, are they that much slower? I don't know. But I feel like everyone in the NHL is fast now. Like, show me a slow team.
Yeah, I think at this point, with Erik Karlsson, it's literally day by day. Because I mean, we have seen games where he had to hit a game five, where he played like 28 minutes and was just flying all over the place, and it's like, man, you'd never know the guy was hurt.
Yeah.
But he probably was just feeling extra good that day, injury aside, kind of thing. You just have those days. You wake up in the morning and your shoulder hurts for some reason, and then the next day you're perfectly fine. I think that's where Karlsson's kind of at this point. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, interesting about the speed aspect, but I don't think the Blues are as slow as people are.
Anyone in the league is
Jaden Schwartz certainly is not a slow player.
Right. Tarasenko's not slow. I mean, I don't know. I mean, their defense, they've got guys that can move.
Parayko.
Yeah.
Done.
Like, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Maybe Joe Bouwmeester's not going to blow you away with his fleet feet, but they, they got guys that can move. I don't think, again, I don't feel like there's this huge chasm again. Like there's a lot of things where people are making out like the Sharks have this huge chasm between, like the speed and the depth. And I personally just don't think the chasm is as wide as people think it is.
Yep.
Will Sharks, Jeff Fredericks, always one of my favorite people on the Twitter machine. Will the Sharks fans finally stop talking about Vegas? Never.
Vegas won't let the Sharks fans stop talking about Vegas because they're going to continue to blow everyone's Twitters up. And it's like
every time, yeah.
Lives.
You know what? I don't follow any of these people, and they don't seem to harass me, thank God. Probably because I don't really respond to that kind of stuff anyway. This is like one of the ugliest rivalries in hockey, and I kind of like it because it just how quickly this rivalry just got so ugly. You would think that LA relocated to Las Vegas and we just picked up where they left off. Like that's how bad it is. And I love it. I don't get involved in it, but I love watching it. Popcorn all around. Okay. I want to get to some.
Where are the folks sending these tweets in, by the way, Ian?
Sorry?
Where are the folks sending the tweets in?
Where are they sending the tweets into you?
Yes.
Oh, you can send them to at Teal Tinted Pod on the Twitter machine, or you can send them to me personally at Ian Blogs Hockey. And generally speaking, I will find them and I will make sure that people hear your questions on the show. We appreciate the questions, especially like going into the series here. There's obviously a lot of intrigue and stuff, so I like a lot of the questions going forward. Questions to help make the show awesome. I wanted to go through some recent signings for the Sharks. I'm not gonna lie, I don't really know a ton about most of these guys, but if Kevin has anything to say, I'm just gonna kind of recap here where we're at. If Kevin has anything interesting to tell you about said player, he will. And
I'll do my best.
All right, Andrew Shortridge, 23-year-old goalie. College goalie, I want to say.
Yeah, he played for Quinnipiac. Actually, Andrew Shortridge, let's start off with the guy I know the least about. Yeah. Here's my thing with Andrew Shortridge is that he had some stellar numbers for Quinnipiac, but college goalie, first off, he was an older college goalie, and college goalies who thrive, it's almost like QMJHL goalies where you just don't know. Mm-hmm. I mean, look at Michael Garteig. I can't remember, was he Union College? It doesn't really matter. But Michael Garteig a couple of years ago was the hot goalie. Him and Kevin Boyle, the two hot goalie free agent signings or whatever. Kevin Boyle played in the NHL a little bit this year, eventually ended up being the backup in the series for the goals against the Barracuda that unfortunately we lost in. But then Michael Garteig, have you heard of this guy? No, because he's backing up in the ECHL. He went from having the best numbers in the NCAA to being an ECHL backup. And so I'm not saying that's going to happen with Andrew Shortridge, but when I'm hearing, oh, he easily, had the best goals against average, best save percentage, whatever, it's all conference dependent. And I don't know, goaltending is, to me, very difficult to gauge in NCAA. So he'll definitely be a backup next year. Like, he'll be one of the two backups for sure. Coronash easily over Shortridge. And the Barracuda also signed Zach Sawchenko, who was actually a pretty highly touted goalie in the draft a couple of years ago and went undrafted completely. So to me, even if they don't pan out, they're free signings, free except for monetary value. So I like that now there's going to be a goalie battle in behind Coronash next year. So
do you think there's a chance that the Sharks will lose Bibeau before the season starts?
I don't, and only because I think Bibeau will be the backup to Martin Jones next year. I really think Aaron Dell's the odd man out, even if it goes to waivers. I can't see Antoine Bibeau being anywhere else but in the NHL next year. So
that's fair. Yeah, because I'm just curious. So I don't know. Like, my opinion is too. Like, I think if you're gonna, especially if the Sharks are going to do some of the things they want to do this summer, then you're obviously like that cap hit that Dell carries, while not super significant, is still an impediment to re-signing players. So it would make a lot more sense to have Bibeau there. But if they can't move him, what do they do then, I guess, is my question.
Yeah. And it's not going to be bad to keep Aaron Dell around, even if it goes all the way through training camp, because you can't just give Antoine Bibeau the backup role.
No. That's
here you go, kid. Create some competition here. And Coronash still would be in the mix. I think just age-wise, it wouldn't make sense to have Coronash be a backup on the NHL next year.
No, you want Coronash playing games.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think Antoine Bibeau will still be with the team next year. And I think he's done everything he can in the AHL at this point. So it's either an NHL job or head off to Europe at this point.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. Just some stuff in the chat. Yes, I understand that the fan interactions are pretty toxic. And again, I'm speaking of the benefit of I don't get involved in these stupid things. Like, I do not argue whose dad could beat up whose dad with Vegas fans. I just watch. And then sometimes I don't even do that. I just scroll past when I just want to completely, roll my eyes. I'm telling you guys, told you last show, I think maybe 2 shows ago, don't engage with these people. These people are stupid. Let them be stupid on their own. I don't know.
For those of you listening and not watching, that's in relation to the Sharks Vegas hatred on the internet.
It's some of it's really bad, and some of it there's people that I really like that get into it, and I'm like, oh, just walk away, please, just walk away. But it is what it is. Oh my goodness. Okay, so how about Joel Kellman?
Who? Oh, Joel Kellman. Sorry. Okay, Joel Kellman. I actually forgot that the Sharks signed him. Joel Kellman's actually a player that I liked. Really, since I haven't been able to watch much of European hockey the last couple of years, I know he was a guy that was kind of on the edge of my radar a couple of years ago, playing for Vecwa, I believe it was. He's a two-way player. It's kind of become the typical off-season sign, or really May, June signing for the Sharks that we've seen in recent years, like Melker Karlsson, Jonas Donskoy, Philip Sandberg, which just didn't work out. Maybe Joel Kellman is the same kind of mold as Philip Sandberg. I do actually like Kellman better than Sandberg. I think he does have a little more upside. It's just, I don't know. I don't expect a ton of offense there, but I think he's, at worst, a reliable player who could chip in. Oh, Antti Suomela, that's another guy, for example. I could see him being a Suomela type going into next year. But I don't know where he fits on the depth chart, because the Sharks and Barracuda are going to be exceptionally deep at center next year. So unless you move him maybe to wing,
right?
I mean, you've got Shimolevsky coming in.
Yeah.
With the NHLers we already have. Dylan Gambrell, of course, he's a center right wing mix. Rourke Chartier, if he's able to come back from his concussion. Alex True still there, of course. Yeah. Latunov, and then you've got Joel Kelman, and you have Noah Gregor graduating from juniors too. So super deep at center. Kelman could be all over the board.
Yeah. Kelman also, you said, I think this was something you tweeted out, was that he also played with former prospect Linus Karlsson as well. Was that correct?
No, I did make some kind of comparison, but I have forgotten it, folks. So follow me at Kevin Lacey 22.
I remember you said something. I just wasn't sure what. I couldn't remember what. I didn't mean to put you on the spot like that.
No. I just, man, so much has happened since the signing that
I know. It's kind of like we kind of like forgot about. I kind of forgot about all these things, and then 21-year-old from Russia, Daniel.
You're taken.
Yeah, you're taken. There you go.
Yeah, you're taken. Another guy who he was kind of on my radar right before I stopped watching I have not followed the KHL at all. I have still tried to keep tabs on the Sweden, Germany, Finland, Switzerland. You're taken. I remember him being a very good prospect for Locomotive. I don't think his offense is really pulled through at the KHL level, but at the same time, a lot of European leagues, like another guy we're going to talk about, Tony Sund here shortly, where sometimes ice time's at a premium, especially in the KHL. The KHL, you want to talk about Peter DeBoer never playing certain guys. The KHL is notorious for relying on their top 9 and top 4 for forwards and defensive respectively, and anyone else is lucky to get a couple minutes. And I think your taken was probably in that realm where if he could get out of the bottom end, he'd get some decent minutes and put up some decent production. Again, only theorizing, but interesting signing, and super small player too. So I didn't think the Sharks needed any more forwards, but again, in the prospect system, but again, it's a free signing. You're not losing a draft pick. You're not losing an asset to pick him up. So why the heck not? I don't know where he fits in either.
That's fair. So Tony Sund, since we went there, left shooting defenseman, 23-year-old. It's the one thing I do like about a lot of these guys. Like, a lot of these guys are, on the younger side. They're not, they're not 19, obviously, but you have a little bit of professional hockey experience coming in. Any thoughts on Tony Sund?
Tony Sund, what I like about him is the fact that he is a bigger defenseman who is offensive reliant, and as you mentioned, he's a left shot. I feel like the Sharks have kind of fallen into a pattern where the left side defenseman is the defensive defenseman and the right side defenseman is the offensive defenseman. So it's nice to see a switch up here. And I'm going to shout out Cheryl Ganapol on this, because Cheryl had asked me on Twitter yesterday about the Tony Sund signing. And what ended up happening was it engaged a couple of fans of Sport Vasa, which is the Finnish league team that Sund played for last year, and they gave me a little bit of expertise here that they both said offensively dynamic, but he can really just lumber around in the defensive zone. So that's a little concerning. But again, with the size, with the offense from the left side instead of the right side, and the fact that I think
so he's a left-handed Tim Heed.
What's that?
He's a left-handed Tim Heed.
Yeah, a left-handed Finnish Tim Heed, I suppose. based on what those guys told me versus what I did know of Tim Heed, I do think Tim Heed's more responsible defensively, but at the same time, Tim Heed's also more along in his development.
Correct.
I mean, that's safe to say. But looking even at the Barracuda depth chart next year, I'm looking at Ferraro, DeSimone, and Gregoire, and Jeremy Waugh. In theory, 4 offensive guys on the right side. And so it will be nice to see someone on the left side who can pack a punch offensively. And who knows, maybe Tony Sund will, paired with the right guy. I mean, look at Mirko Mueller when he was paired with Julius Bergman, who did finally go back to Sweden, by the way. Neither of them were really reliable individually, but together they actually were an okay pair for a year with the Barracuda. So,
yeah. I'm curious to see how these guys pan out. I mean, I haven't really been able to do this is usually summers when I normally do my due diligence. Vince just dropped the link there for some. You're taking. It's easy. I don't know why I'm having so much trouble with that. Some highlights there. So Mario Ferraro, obviously mentioned. This is obviously the big one. In my opinion, this is. I don't know if he, depending on what happens, obviously with the blue line this offseason. But if things go maybe not the way the Sharks want them to, I mean, this is a guy, in my opinion, could challenge for a spot at a camp.
Hey, Mario Ferraro looked outstanding in camp last year. And the development the steps forward he has taken this year for, was it UMass?
I believe so.
I believe so. Yeah. I mean, he has a presence about him that I really like. He's got a leadership presence. He's fleet of foot, but I mean, he is so dynamic on his feet. Mm-hmm. And he can play on both ends. He's a prospect where at the time when the Sharks drafted him, I said, oh, okay, I didn't know much about him. And I guess I thought it was a little bit of a reach, but, for the Sharks believed in it. Why not? But everything I've seen about him since he was drafted has been absolutely positive. I love this guy.
Yeah.
I have him as the second best prospect in the Sharks organization right now, behind Chmielewski. So,
yeah, I look at Ferraro. I mean, I think if you look at the
and that's ahead of Ryan Merkley, by the way.
And that's it, right? I think if you look, I still think Merkley definitely caps out higher in potential, but
yes,
Mario Ferraro is already at a level where maybe the ceiling isn't much higher for Ferraro than he was already at, but the gap to get for Ryan Merkley to take over that defensive spot again, I mean, his defense is going to have to come way up.
Yeah.
And I feel yes, potentially Ryan Merkley is the best defenseman in the system, but the best defenseman currently in the system right now is Mario Ferraro. Easy. And it's not even close.
Sorry, I'm responding to Jerry in the chat. Well, I guess I'll just say it on it. Yes, I think Sasha Chmielewski plays for the Barracuda next year, and it's Sasha. Don't call him Alexander.
That's right. Speaking of Chmielewski, so the Ottawa 67s, after having just tearing through the OHL playoffs, finally found a team that has kind of punched them in the nose a little bit after going undefeated for, I think, some ridiculous, I don't know, it's 3 series, I don't know. They won a bunch of games. I can't do math right now off the top of my head.
Well, they won. I don't know where
they swept through. They swept through everyone, and they won the first 2 games in Guelph. And now Guelph has come back and won the last 3.
Really? Oh, wow! I didn't know. Last I'd heard it was 2-0. So
Guelph has come back and they've won the last 3 games. I think if you're the 67s, obviously now you're kind of in trouble here a little bit. I think that tonight would have been a very important game for the 67s to kind of get back into it a little bit. If you're a team though that's tearing through things the way that the 67s had torn through things, you kind of in my opinion, this is kind of what you want. You kind of want to get your nose bloody now in a 7-game series, because if you move on to the Memorial Cup, it's round robin, single elimination. You can't afford to get your nose bloody because it's over. You lose you lose a single elimination game. It's over. That's not the time you want to get your nose bloody. So I think that
look at Tampa Bay Lightning. Look at St. Cloud State.
Right.
Easily two first overall seeds who got bounced in the first.
Yeah. So I think for the 67s, I think if they can recover from this, I really like their chances in the Memorial Cup. Although there's going to be some really good teams in there. If they can't, it's crazy when you think of at the trade deadline. I remember talking about Ryan Merkley being traded to the Peterborough Petes because he was formerly on the Guelph Storm, and how the attitude around the Storm at that time was, we're just not good enough, so we're going to sell. And here they are, which is just, again, it's amazing how sometimes things can turn around. I'm not saying that, Ryan Merkley being gone from the Storm is why they're here now. And I don't think that's fair. I'm not going to put that on Ryan Merkley, but it's definitely interesting when you consider where they were when they made some of those trades. So Chmelevski himself has played 17 games. He has 11 goals. Of those 11 goals, 4 are on the power play, 2 are game winners. He has 19 assists and 30 points and is a +9 so far in the OHL playoffs. I think they play. I want to say they play Sunday night, where they'll have to try and stave off elimination against the Guelph Storm. So I'll keep tabs on that. But other than that, hopefully he moves on. Hopefully the 67s move on, because I always like having a Sharks story to follow in the Memorial Cup. And I mean, I'm not sure what's going on in the queue. I feel like Red is still winning their series, but I'm not 100% positive. But Zach Reevan's going to be sitting on the bench, so there's not really too much to get excited for there. I mean, I guess we can go to the other series, because I know we're kind of probably pushing time here, eh?
Yeah, we're definitely got to wrap it up real quick. I finally found my tweet on Kelman. You asked me about. All I was saying about Joel Kelman was, in fact, I think it's Joel Kelman now that I think about it. But anyway, it was just that when the Sharks drafted Linus Karlsson last year, Joel Kelman was on the same team. And the fact that now he signs with the Sharks almost makes me believe that he was the guy that the Sharks wanted in the first place, and then just happened to think, oh, well, this Karlsson guy is actually not bad. We kind of liked him. Let's just throw a dart at him and draft him and see what happens. Now he's turned into Jonathan Dahlen. But right. I have a gut feeling that they were after Kelman for a while. So that's all I wanted to throw in there.
Perfect. I'm just gonna try to hit the chat here. Yeah, I think the 67s are without DiPietro, which obviously doesn't help.
Yeah, that's right. I heard he lost their goalie.
Yeah, obviously that doesn't help anything. Chekovich, I'm pretty sure, is also Barracuda bound next year.
Yes, he is.
You can find the show from that draft when we got. I was really high on both those picks.
Yeah, I think we all were unanimously.
We all were. I think we were all unanimously really high, and we all considered them steals based on where they were taken. I thought the Sharks did some work like they usually do in the later rounds, but they definitely did some work in that draft. Obviously, Chekovich is a guy who, I mean, we've seen in spurts do really well in the AHL. I'd like to see how he manages a whole season playing with adults. Chmelevski, that guy's the whole package. He's not going to wow you with any one aspect of his game, but he's a guy.
He'll wow you at how consistent again, he's got to prove himself in the pro game.
Yeah.
But based on what we've seen at juniors, in training camp, in preseason games and whatnot, he wows me in how consistent he is in all right. facets.
Like he's just an all-around good player. He's not, there's not one aspect of his game where you say, wow, look, that's an amazing thing. He just plays the game really, really well. And I think that, maybe he's not a first-line player in the NHL, but is he a middle six? Absolutely. Like, he is the kind of dependable middle six guy that you want, that does everything well, but nothing particularly great.
Yep.
So Bruins, Hurricanes, just quick here on the Bruins and Hurricanes. Who do you like in the series despite the first game?
I like Boston. I as much as I was disappointed with how Boston played in their first round series against Toronto, I thought they really stepped it up in the second round here and kind of found their groove. Boston's a team that I've been high on. I won't say I was high on Boston going into the year. That would be a lie. But as the season has gone along, they've really impressed me, and I felt that they were the second best team in the league behind Tampa Bay. So, they are the highest seed remaining at this point, and I have to think that they're going to take this series. I'm such a fan of Carolina. Like, I don't know, man. It would break my heart to see Carolina like get swept, for example, or even lose in 5, which is what I have them doing.
Right.
But if Carolina prevails in that series, maybe they're the Florida Marlins of hockey. Like, maybe the Carolina Hurricanes have become the team in hockey where the only time they ever make the playoffs, they go to the freaking cup finals.
Ridiculous. Yeah, I'm with you here. Like, I like the Bruins. I think on the last show, I commented on how I just think the Bruins, like, I hate the idea of rings in the room, but this is a team that's been together. The core of this team has been together for so long. Like, these guys have been there before. They've done it before. They know what it takes. And they've got, and a lot of the, their depth pieces are really, really good. I feel like, yes, Marchand's a jerk. And I really, if the Sharks would face them, that would be my big concern, is just based on how the Vegas series kind of got out of hand because of Reeves. I kind of magnify that by 10 with Marchand. But I feel like, yeah, I mean, if I'd have to, I don't know, I haven't looked at the book, but I assume Boston's got to be the odds-on favorite going right now.
I guess one prominent gambling site or something, Carolina was the heavy favorite, but I don't know. I think Boston. It's got to be Boston.
It's got to. And I don't know. I look at that team and there's nothing. There's, I know I said every team has its flaws, and I'm sure Boston has its flaws, but they are few and far between, in my opinion.
Yeah. And Vince, Sleepy Mofo says Money Pucks is the one who picked said Carolina was a heavy favorite. Vince says that last night Boston did a pretty good job of getting Carolina to dump their speed and skill game and try and play a physical style that they're clearly not capable, not capable of doing, but not it's not part of their game. And that to me is, you hit the nail on the head, because every time the Sharks have faltered in the playoffs, I felt like they've tried to replicate someone else's game. I feel like the team that wins the Stanley Cup every year is the team that defines the season, defines the playoffs and whatnot, and doesn't try and play to the other team's strengths and weaknesses. No. They just go out and do their thing and win. And if Carolina's trying to match Boston, they really will be out in 4 or 5.
Rob, does Chara retire if Boston hosts the Cup? No, he can't, because if he did, then he will saddle Boston with his cap hit for the extension that he signed in the middle of the season, because he is over 36. So there is no way that Chara will retire next season. He wouldn't do that to the Bruins.
That's it. And how much longer is Chara on the?
Just a year. He's going year to year, but he signed an extension in the middle of the year. So even if they win the Cup, he'll be back next year, because otherwise, whatever cap hit he signed for, Boston saddled with regardless. So he's going to play. I
did think it was interesting in the last series that he was the one that was targeted by Columbus, like him out there with McAvoy. They played to Chara's side. It's just like, wow, that such high praise for this kid, Charlie McAvoy. So, and deservingly so. He's a great defenseman, but it's just funny to me that, like, of the two, Chara's the one that you're going to take your best chance at.
Yeah, and Skylar mentioned it is only 2 million, but this guy's a machine. Like Chara's not human. Like he's a robot underneath all that tallness. It's the only thing I can explain. Like Chara, like the way this guy keeps himself in shape is insane.
And you have to, when you're 6'9" and you're playing hockey, you have to be in tip top shape.
Yeah. I don't. Alicia, I wonder if Marchand isn't the reason that Haley was brought back. I think Haley was brought back for Ryan Reeves.
Yeah, I think completely honest.
I don't think Doug Wilson was looking that far ahead.
And if not Vegas, Calgary at the time, because let's not forget that the Sharks in Calgary had some ugly games this year, and if that had been a second round matchup, you're absolutely going to have Haley out there with guys like Tkachuk.
Yeah, I don't like it, but
not saying they're the same player, because Tkachuk is way more talented than Mr.
Right.
Haley
Yeah,
is.
Those are the trade-offs you don't really want. I think it was a more long term. I don't think you would be like, oh well, we better have this guy in case we meet the Bruins in the final. I think you look at your first couple of rounds, and anything beyond that is, it is what it is. I don't know. Anything else? I think we covered pretty much everything that.
Now, yeah, we're good. But of course, thank you all for joining us on a Friday night. And actually, we got a pretty good turnout. The chat was excellent tonight.
Excellent.
So,
yeah, absolutely. We're gonna try and keep this thing rolling weekly, at least through the playoffs. And then come summer, we'll figure it out. But I am having a blast doing this still. So that's thing.
I wish I could be on more. Obviously, scheduling has been hard this year, as everyone knows. We've been very, off the cuff with our scheduling. But man, these shows are a lot of fun. I really had a great time tonight, Ian, and I actually feel better about this series with the Sharks and the Blues after speaking with you and all of you in the chat than I was going into it. So, I'm still gonna reserve my real pick just because I'm like, man, I don't know. I really don't know. But it's gonna be, it's gonna be a fun series.
It's gonna be a fun series. I have Sharks and Bruins meeting in the finals, and I'm sticking with it. I think that the only one thing is like because I want to go back to this, and it's just like the Joe Thornton thing, and I just feel like, man, isn't that kind of a reach for a storyline? Like, I mean, I understand Boston trading, but God, it feels like it was 20 years ago.
Because it kind of was.
It kind of like I know it wasn't exactly 20 years,
but it was almost 15 years ago.
It was almost like, I just feel like it's gonna be interesting to see what kind of like plot lines go into it, because like for me, I feel like if they're gonna use that, like that's just tired. It's so past. Like half the and all the guys that the Sharks traded for Joe Thornton are retired now, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like it's so like
one of them's coaching.
Yeah, one of them exactly. Like, come on. I don't know. I'm sure we'll get all kinds of insufferable narratives if that is the case, but I am not on board.
I'm still hoping, we'll get a Sharks Carolina series just after Joe Thornton's post-game comments of Game 7, where he said, "We're just a bunch of good guys."
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, the bunch of good guys versus the bunch of jerks. Let's just make this happen, hockey gods. Like,
I do.
And thank you all for your likes on Twitter for that.
I like that. If Carolina's there, it does leave me the aspect of, I think I advocated for terrorism with Brian Burke and Don Cherry and all of those guys piling onto the ice with TNT vests to try and stop them from doing a surge with the cup. I could still have that.
Oh man, we'll get Drew back on here if that series. We'll get him back on regardless. But it's gonna be really interesting if it can be Sharks and Hurricanes. Just see where Drew's loyalties really lie.
Yeah. Now we're gonna find out. Oh my goodness. Here we go.
So stay tuned, folks.
Stay tuned for that. We are going to burn Drew at the stake on air. If he burns, he's a Carolina fan. If he doesn't burn, he's a Sharks fan. That's how this works, right?
All right. So yeah, I'm at Kevin Lacey 22. You can follow me on most social media. And again, I still trying to get that Barracuda. They're not in the playoffs anymore, but I'm still trying to get all my prospect stuff out of the way and whatnot, and hope to do a Barracuda show here soon. So
Nice.
keep an eye for that.
All right. I am at Ian Blogs Hockey on the Twitter machine. Thanks, guys, for coming. Thanks for the new subscribers. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the little bell so you know when we're going to go live, although I do generally give you guys a decent amount of warning on the Twitter machine. Sometimes I come on, though, just randomly. But yeah, definitely CUDA is something I definitely would like to talk about because I think there's a few players there that I've gotten questions about, and I have no answers. So I just am like, ask Kevin. But I'd like to answer some of those on air anyway. So go Sharks. Have a good night, and we will see you hopefully next weekend. Goodbye.